welcome to Childfree for Life. Thank you for being
Hi,
here.
thank you for having me.
Would you like to start with a little bit of introduction?
Um, well, my name is Molly. I'm
Mhm.
47, so I'm one of the older members of the child-free community,
Yay.
one of the ancient ones. And I currently live in Iowa with my SO and our three cats.
Nice. Have you always lived in Iowa or?
Uh, I grew up right across the river in Illinois,
Mhm.
but moved in with him in 2017.
Cool. Um, do you feel like your childhood and where you grew up impacted your decision to not have kids?
Not really. I myself had a good childhood, loving
Mm-hmm.
parents, loving brother. You know, I always did kind of feel like an outsider with friends and whatnot.
Hmm.
But in terms of anything that happened in my childhood or stuff like that, no, it was overall a typical childhood with the
Mm-hmm.
ups and downs. I myself feel like I've been lucky. I read some stories from people and I'm just like,
Yeah,
man, I don't know how you make it, how you survive.
I know. I know. Do you think there was a specific moment where you were kind of like, where you knew that this is not something that you want for yourself?
I know that I came to the decision in college. Uh,
Mm-hmm.
I couldn't give you like specifics. I'm pretty sure I was just sitting in my dorm room and I just thought, I just don't want kids. I just the thought of it. I don't know if I had been doing extensive thinking about it or what,
Mm-hmm.
but I just remember that part. I just know it was college and I just thought, I don't I don't really feel like this is the path for me. It just didn't hold the appeal that, it does for some people.
Yeah.
And so I thought, no, no, this isn't something, and like some people, I did kind of waver back and forth. I thought, well, I might be open to changing my mind, open to the option of
Mm-hmm.
changing my mind. Not that I would, but might be open to the option. Um, but then, like as I got older and stuff, I was just like, yeah, no, this is not happening.
Has it impacted your dating life since then? Did you like intentionally look for people who also don't want to have kids? Was it easy? Was it hard?
Again, for me, I'm kind of the weird one in this scenario because for me it was easy. Um, I've been with my guy. He's a great guy. I've been with him for 24 years. And when we first started dating, I had kind of told him, I don't really want kids, but the whole thing, like I said, I'd be option to the or open to the option of
Mm-hmm.
changing my mind, but not a guarantee. And he seemed fine with it. Um, and I know sometimes we'll read stories from people and they'll say things like, oh, my boyfriend said he was fine with my decision and then he changed his mind and blah, blah, blah.
Yeah.
Luckily, this is one where that didn't happen. He
Mm-hmm.
has been supportive the whole way. And he told me later, that he felt he was always child free. He just didn't really realize it when he was
Oh.
younger.
Mm-hmm.
But he said, he was always careful in college and stuff like that. He had a couple girlfriends. He was always careful. Uh,
Mm.
and he said, yeah, he says, I think I was always child free too. So I feel like, at least in that sense, I got lucky. So I'm glad that we were able to kind of grow and realize that and come to that decision together.
Yeah, that's great when that happens.
Yeah.
Did you receive any judgment from other people, like family or friends, or was it good?
It was overall pretty good. I mean, I know some people, even to this day, they have uh, parents or siblings or coworkers that, say things to them, like, hey, why aren't you giving us kids? Or, parents will continue to push for the grandkid narrative.
Mm.
Um, I luckily didn't have too much of a problem. Like I remember when I had mentioned it to my mother, she said, yeah, she was a little disappointed, but then she thought she knows what she wants. And
Yeah.
that's what's important. She thought about it and she said, there are people who go, they have kids, they don't really think about the consequences of their actions, and they're not fit to raise a child. And she
Yeah.
thought, at least with you, at least you have thought about it and thought, I just don't want to go through that. And honestly, I do think she's kind of come around on my side. you know
Mm-hmm.
she was always one. I remember growing up, she said she was one who never really liked kids, and I always thought,
Interesting.
yeah. And I always said, well, why did you have us? And she says, well, I love you, which good, I'm glad. I never felt bad or unwanted or unloved or anything, but I do remember thinking that, like, but yet you had kids even though you weren't really a fan of them. So I think maybe there was a part of her that thought, I'm not really a fan of them anyways, and so now I don't have to deal with what
Grandkids.
they're like. Yeah. I don't have to deal with those running around and screaming and all that. And hey,
Mm.
guess what? I saved money at Christmas.
Yeah, great. In terms of sterilization, is that something you considered or not really?
I was considering it. I didn't have to though because he went and got a vasectomy. So
Mm-hmm.
luckily for me, that got taken off the table. But it was something that I was considering like 5 or 6 years ago. Granted, even then I was already like in my 40s and so kind of getting in the danger zone. But I still thought, well, just to be on the safe side, because you have heard stories of people having their first kid in their 40s or late 40s. It does happen. And so I had been considering that option too. And he said, I'll just go get it done because it's, less intrusive and whatnot.
Mm-hmm.
Um, and so, but I told him, I said, this has to completely be your decision.
Mm-hmm.
Said, I do not want to be one of those women out there who pushes you into something that you're going to regret. You need to be 100% on board with this. And he was. So, in the sense of sterilization, I myself didn't have to worry about it. And luckily, he did sterilize.
Mm-hmm. If you wanted to, do you know if it's possible in your area, if it's easy or difficult to do that? Or did you not look into it because you didn't have
um,
to?
I didn't really look into it myself. I know for him, when he went to the urologist, they did ask the question because, it's standard. They have to ask it anyways, are you sure about this? And basically, what he said is, because I think he was like 54, because he's about 12
Mm-hmm.
years older than me. Um, he was about 54 or so at the time. And he said to the doctor, by the time this kid would graduate high school, I'd be like in my 70s.
Yeah.
And the guy said, yeah, good point. So for him, it was pretty easy. So I myself didn't do that much research into it,
Mm-hmm.
although I have a feeling it would have been okay, especially given that I myself was considering it when I was older.
Yeah. Yeah. Do you still see meaning in marriage? I don't know if you're married or not. Is that something that you would want
Um,
to do?
in Iowa, we are, when you live together, it's called common law. Iowa does
Mm-hmm.
recognize common law. Um, would we officially get married? We might sometime. I don't know. But, for us, it's like we have all the steps of marriage, anyways, even if we don't have the
Yeah.
actual paper. Um, but we might, we have discussed it briefly. But, again, my attitude is we've been together 24 years. We're obviously
Yeah.
committed to each other and we act
Mm-hmm.
like an old married couple anyways. So so
For
even with that,
sure.
even if we didn't make it official, we're pretty much still considered, even in the eyes of the law, since, as I said, we have common law here.
Yeah. Yeah. So possible, not necessary.
Yeah. Yeah. And we're lucky because Iowa doesn't seem like a state that would have common law, but we have common law.
Hmm. Have you felt any regrets or sadness related to this decision?
Honestly, not really. I have occasionally, just in passing, I might think to myself, the occasional like, oh, what's going to happen when I'm old? Because I think we all just kind of think that, anyways, even if
Mm,
we are secure in our decision, we still might think who's going to take care of us when we're old. So I have just had those fleeting thoughts, but in terms of regrets, no. I look at videos of people with their kids and I'm looking at them and I'm like, why? We
mm,
have one relative in the family, they have 4 kids, and great for them. They won the 4 kids, perfect. But when I heard, I was just like, why?
it's a
It's like,
lot.
why? Yeah, I just was thinking, why would you keep going through that? And there's one who's maybe going to be getting pregnant again with her third, different father. It's just a whole big mess. But I
Hmm.
hear that and I just think, why? And it, for me, because that's my reaction, that also solidifies to me,
You made
made
the
the
right
right decision.
decision.
Yeah,
Yeah.
because I'm not going along like, oh man, they have a baby. I don't know if you've ever seen Friends, um,
Mhm.
but Monica Geller, of course, especially in the first season or two, she would see someone with a baby and she'd start to cry and get all upset. And I always judged her for that. Even when the show was on, I was like, you are an idiot. So right there, I should tell you. But I was like, I've never been like that. I see someone walk by with a kid, or maybe, if they're walking down the street, they have 2 or 3. And I just think, no, like that just seems horrible to
Hmm.
me, and obviously to others in the child free community. It's like, do not want.
Yeah. Yeah, that's good to have that clarity.
Yeah.
Um, any stereotypes about child-free people that annoy you?
Um, I would say the whole childless cat lady.
Yeah.
I mean, yes, I am a childless cat lady. I fully embrace it. Although I'm
I
not
know.
childless, I'm child free. But yeah, I would say the stereotype itself, because one, not all child free people have cats. Some have dogs. Some don't have any pets. And two, it's like someone comes along and they try to, insult someone by saying, "Oh, you're just a childless cat lady." It's like, you do realize that's not an insult. That's
Yeah.
literally what we want. Like, this is what we're striving for. Again, even if you don't like want the pet, still the whole concept of it. It's like, yeah, we would much prefer having the pet
Hmm.
to you or to your offspring, stuff like that. So yeah, that's a stereotype that does kind of bother me and can
Mm,
sometimes annoy me. Um, and people, love to throw it out, but the thing is, as I said, it's like, it's not an insult. Try it out all you want. And I've had to, I've commented on that before too. I've said to people, that's not an insult.
hmm.
And they try to argue that it is, and it's like, no, it's literally not.
Yeah.
You're
Happy
just
life.
reiterating what I am. So how is that an insult?
Yeah, totally. What brings you the most joy in this lifestyle?
Being able to do what I want, being able to not have someone rely on me. Granted, obviously my cats rely on me, but not having someone constantly hanging off me, needing to
Mm,
run everywhere, making sure for their well-being. If my SO and I decided that we wanted to just leave and drive an hour for dinner, we could just do that, or take a weekend trip or whatever, we can just
be
go.
spontaneous.
Yeah. Yeah. I can, I don't have to schedule my life around this little person. I can
Hmm.
easily just do my life. And, when it comes to, something like the cats, it's like, yeah, you feed them and stuff like that. And they do obviously take up some time and responsibility. But, yeah, you don't have to worry about that. So for me, that's something that gives me a lot of joy is knowing that I don't have to have someone else depend on me, have this little human depend on me. And also the other joy would be never having experienced childbirth.
Hmm.
That's just whew. I
Yep.
I used to watch that, because you see it in movies and stuff as a
Mm,
kid, and I always thought, why? Why do you go through that?
I
You
know.
know. So
That's
I'm
scary.
yeah. So I honestly don't get why people would do that. So that would also be one under what gives me
Hmm. Very
joy.
good
Never
point.
having to experience that.
Yeah. Yeah. Was there anything else I didn't ask that you would like to mention?
um, just for those who are on the fence, just fully think through your decision. And whichever way you go, if you decide you want to have kids, perfect. If you decide you don't want to have kids, perfect. But, kids you can't return.
Hmm.
You can return a lot of things in life, but you can't return a child. So, if you do regret it later, and we know some people do, you kind of
It's too
stuck.
late.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I mean, you'll see people post and talk about, I'd rather regret not having kids than regret having them.
Having.
So, anyone who's on the fence and not exactly sure, just think about it. Be true to yourself is also what I'd say to them, and don't change for your partner,
Hmm.
whoever it is, because your partner should share the same as you. Basically saying that everyone else in the child free community thinks, but it's
Yeah.
good to reiterate that.
Good. I'm very happy. Okay, thank you so much, Molly. It was great to have you.